Partsundron. The air inside the grand chamber of the Galactic Concord Council was always still. Not because the station lacked life, but because every species that entered it held its breath. 17 civilizations, each older than the last, gathered in a circle of polished obsidian and humming energy fields. Their voices, when they spoke, were measured, slow, and full of ancient weight. Humans had only been allowed to sit among them for 43 years, a blink in cosmic time. Kyle Dawson stood near the edge of the human delegation's platform. He wore the standard gray Concord uniform, but his posture was different from the others. While the Cathari kept their spines rigid and the Veln swayed gently like reeds in water, Kyle stood like a man who had made up his mind. His hands were clasped behind his back, his eyes fixed on the center of the chamber where the rotating symbol of unity, a spiral of 17 interlocking rings, floated in mid-air. The session that day was supposed to be routine. Trade quotas for the Outer Rim, updates on the Mircall mining dispute, and a vote on whether to extend the atmospheric stabilization project on Trell Prime. Nothing urgent, nothing worth walking out over. But Kyle had stopped believing in routine a long time ago. For months, human proposals had been ignored or dismissed with polite condescension. Requests for equal representation in Fleet Command were met with sighs. Suggestions to revise the Concord's emergency response protocols humans had written after the Xylos disaster, were tabled indefinitely. The message was clear. Humans were useful but not equals. Across the chamber, High Arbiter Zoran of the Veln adjusted his iridescent robes. His voice, when it came, was smooth and low like stone sliding underwater. The Council acknowledges the contributions of Earth's delegation, he said, but maturity in governance requires patience. Not every voice can lead at once. A few of the elder species nodded. The Cathari delegate Lyra Vaughn glanced toward Kyle, her 4 eyes unreadable. She had once called him a spark in a room of embers, but even she stayed silent now. Kyle didn't react. He simply turned to his aide, Lena Brooks, and whispered something too quiet for the translators to catch. Lena's fingers tightened around her data pad. She gave a small nod. Then, without warning, Kyle stepped forward. The chamber's ambient hum dipped. Every species turned. Protocol dictated that no one moved during a session unless called upon. But Kyle walked anyway, past the human platform, past the floating rings, straight to the center. "I speak not as a delegate," he said, his voice calm but carrying, "but as a representative of Earth and all its colonies." A murmur rippled through the chamber. This was not how things were done. "For 43 years, Kyle continued, "we have served the Concord in good faith. We have repaired your ships, translated your languages, and stood beside you in war. We asked only for a seat at the table, not above anyone but beside you." He paused. The silence stretched. Today we withdraw. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the ever-present hum of the station seemed to still. We do not declare war. We do not seek revenge. We simply choose to no longer participate in a system that sees us as tools, not partners. And with that, he turned and walked back to his platform. One by one, the human delegates stood. Lena Brooks shut down her data pad. Engineer Marcus Cole detached his neural link. Diplomat Nina Patel folded her notes and placed them neatly on her seat. They didn't look back. Within minutes, every human aboard Viridia Prime was gone. Not in anger, not in haste, but with quiet, practiced efficiency. Shuttles launched from docking bays. Data cores wiped themselves clean. Security codes reset. Human-maintained systems entered standby mode, waiting for commands that would never come from conquered hands again. The Council sat in stunned silence long after the last human had left the chamber. Zoran finally broke the quiet. "They will return," he said, though his voice lacked its usual certainty. "They always do, but they didn't." Back on Earth, the news spread fast. Not through official channels, but through street screens, school broadcasts, and neighborhood comms. In Chicago, a group of teenagers paused their hoverball game to watch Kyle's speech replay on a public wall. In Nairobi, farmers working under solar canopies listened as the announcement crackled over old radios. In Buenos Aires, an elderly woman smiled and whispered, "About time." There was no celebration. No cheering. Just a deep, collective exhale, as if humanity had been holding its breath for decades and finally remembered how to breathe. On the moon, at the Tycho Research Hub, Lena Brooks stood at a viewport overlooking the silent gray plains. She tapped a command into her wrist pad. Across the solar system, thousands of human-built relay stations powered down their Concorde interfaces. Their lights blinked once, green to red, then went dark. She didn't feel anger. She felt relief. Meanwhile, aboard Viridia Prime, the first signs of trouble began. A navigation buoy near the Helios belt flickered offline. A medical bay on Deck 7 reported that its diagnostic AI, custom-coded by human bioengineers, had frozen. A Qatari trader trying to file a cargo manifest found the human-designed logistics portal locked, its access keys revoked. At first, the Council assumed it was a glitch. Temporary, fixable. They did not yet understand that humanity hadn't just walked out of a room. They had walked out of the machine. And the machine, for the first time in centuries, began to stutter. No alarms sounded, no red lights flashed. But deep in the station's core, a coolant pump, one maintained only by human technicians, started to whine. Its rhythm was off by less than a millisecond. No one noticed. Not yet. But in the quiet that followed humanity's exit, even the smallest sound grew loud. Kyle Dawson's shuttle broke orbit an hour later. As Earth filled the viewport, blue-green alive, he leaned back and closed his eyes. He thought of his daughter who had asked him that morning, "Dad, are we finally going home for good?" He hadn't answered then, but now as the stars blurred past, he knew the answer. Yes, and this time they wouldn't be asked to leave anything behind. Part 2. At first, the Council told itself it was nothing. A minor disruption. Humans had always been dramatic, they said. Give them a few days and they'll come crawling back with apologies and open hands. High Arbiter Zoran even ordered extra rations sent to the human quarters, just in case they returned hungry and humbled. But the human quarters stayed empty, and the problems kept coming. It started small. A food synthesizer on Deck 12 stopped recognizing protein codes from the Trell system. The machine had been calibrated by a human technician named Eli Ruiz, who had left without wiping his personal settings. Now it only accepted Earth-based nutrient profiles. The Trell delegation complained, but no one knew how to reset it. The manual was in English, and the Concorde's translation matrix kept misreading the word calibrate as terminate. Then came the comms failure. The long-range relay near Proxima Centauri went silent. It was one of 17 human-built nodes that formed the backbone of the Concorde's messaging network. Without daily maintenance from human engineers, its quantum alignment drifted. Messages began arriving hours late or not at all. A distress call from a Myrkal freighter stranded near a black hole looped for 3 days before anyone noticed. Counselor Lyra Vaughn tried to raise Earth on the emergency channel. Static answered her. She turned to Zoran. "We need to talk to them. They'll contact us when they're ready," he replied, though his voice lacked its usual calm. Meanwhile, on the frontier colony of New Haven, things were worse. The colony ran on human-designed atmospheric processors, machines that pulled nitrogen from the soil and mixed it with oxygen to keep the air breathable. The processors had a failsafe. If not checked every 72 hours by a human-certified operator, they entered lockdown mode. No one on New Haven had that certification. The air grew thin. People started coughing. A Qatari science team arrived with tools and confidence. They opened the main unit only to find lines of code scrolling across a screen in plain English. "Do not override. System integrity compromised." They tried anyway. The machine shut down completely. Panic spread. Back on Viridia Prime, the Council held an emergency session. Voices rose. Accusations flew. The Myrkal blamed the Trell for hoarding spare parts. The Trell accused the Myrkal of sabotaging shared systems to gain leverage. Without human mediators, who had spent years learning the subtle body language, honor codes, and historical grievances of each species, the argument spiraled. Lyra Vaughn stood. "This is not about parts," she said. "This is about pride. We treated them like servants, not partners, and now we're paying for it." Zoran's skin darkened, a vellum sign of anger. "We built this Concorde long before humans crawled out of their oceans. But they kept it running," Lyra shot back. No vote was taken. No decision made. The session ended in silence. On Earth, life moved on. In a small town in Oregon, teenager Maya Ruiz, Eli's niece, sat in her garage, tinkering with an old Concorde scout drone her uncle had brought home as a souvenir. It was supposed to be junk, but Maya had spent weeks reverse engineering its code. Now it hovered above her workbench, planting tiny seeds in a tray of soil she'd mixed herself. Her school had canceled classes that week, not because of chaos, but because half the students were helping rebuild irrigation systems using repurposed Concord tech. Teachers called it practical civics. News feeds showed cities lit by clean fusion grids, no longer tied to Concord energy networks. Farms used autonomous harvesters that once served 3-star systems but now fed only Earth. There was no gloating, no propaganda, just work. Quiet, steady work. Lena Brooks stood on a hill outside Denver, watching a fleet of drones replant trees in what used to be a wildfire zone. She wore a simple jacket, no insignia, no title. A child ran past her, laughing, chasing a mechanical dog that barked in cheerful beeps. She smiled. The galaxy might be falling apart, but here things were growing. Back on Viridia Prime, the first real crisis hit. A cargo freighter carrying medical supplies to the Trell homeworld lost navigation lock. Its pilot, a Valn, tried to reroute manually, but the star charts were outdated. The ship drifted into a debris field. Hull integrity dropped to 40%. The Concord's rescue fleet was ready to launch, except the command interface for the lead vessel required a human biometric key. The system had been designed that way after a pirate attack 5 years earlier. Only 3 people in the galaxy could authorize launch: Kyle Dawson, Lena Brooks, and Marcus Cole. All 3 were on Earth. Zoran finally broke. He stormed into the communications hub and demanded a direct line to Earth. The operator, a young Cathari named Joran, shook his head. "The channel is closed, Arbiter. They've firewalled everything." "Then open it," Zoran hissed. "I can't. The encryption uses a neural pattern tied to human brainwaves. We don't have the template." Zoran stared at the blank screen. For the first time in his 300 years, he felt helpless. That night, Lyra Vaughn sent a private message, not through official channels, but through an old cultural exchange network humans had set up for poets and artists. She didn't ask for help. She simply wrote, "We miss your voice." The message bounced back unread. On New Haven, oxygen levels dropped to dangerous lows. Families gathered in sealed community domes, sharing air from emergency tanks. A child asked her mother, "Will the humans come back to fix it?" The mother didn't answer, but someone did. A small, unmarked shuttle, painted white with no markings, entered New Haven's orbit. It wasn't Concord. It wasn't military. It just hovered there for an hour. Then a single data packet transmitted to the colony's main terminal. Inside was a video file. It showed a woman in a plain blue shirt, Lena Brooks, standing in a sunlit field. Behind her, drones planted trees. She spoke slowly, clearly, in basic galactic standard. "The atmospheric processors don't need us to fix them," she said. "They just need you to stop fighting over who owns them. The reset code is 7239 Alpha. Say it out loud to the main unit. It will listen." She paused. "We didn't leave to hurt you. We left because you wouldn't let us help you properly." The transmission ended. Trembling, a Trell engineer typed the code into the processor. The machine whirred. Lights turned green. Fresh air hissed through the vents. Cheers erupted across the colony. But on Viridia Prime, no one celebrated. They just stared at each other, ashamed. The truth was sinking in. The Concord hadn't just lost a member. It had lost its glue, and without that glue, even the strongest structures began to crack. Zoran sat alone in his quarters that night. He replayed the video from Lena Brooks 3 times. Each time he noticed something new. The calm in her eyes, the lack of anger, the quiet certainty that they didn't need the Concord as much as the Concord needed them. He didn't sleep. By dawn, he had made a decision. He would send someone to Earth. Not a soldier, not a diplomat, someone who understood both worlds. He called for Jalen Brooks, Lena's half-brother, who had stayed on Viridia Prime out of duty, not choice. "Go to them," Zoran said. "Ask what it will take to bring them back." Jalen nodded, but he already knew the answer. It wasn't about taking, it was about listening, and the Council had forgotten how. Part 3. 3 weeks after humans left, the Concord began to fall apart in ways no one had expected. It wasn't just broken machines or silent comms. It was trust. That invisible thread holding 17 species together started to snap, one strand at a time. The Myrkul accused the Trell of stealing human-made atmospheric processors from shared storage on Viridia Prime. The Trell denied it, saying the Miracle had rerouted supply ships to their own colonies. Without human logistics officers to track shipments or verify manifests, there was no proof either way. Arguments turned into shoving matches in the corridors. Security drones programmed by humans to de-escalate stood idle, their protocols locked behind Earth's new firewalls. On the mining moon, Series 9, a human-built water recycler failed. The backup system required a voice command in English with a specific accent profile. No one on the moon spoke English. They tried recordings. They tried mimicking. Nothing worked. Within days, rationing began. Tempers flared. 2 workers from rival species got into a fight over a single cup of clean water. One lost an eye. The other lost his job. No one lost sleep over it, because sleep was hard to find when you were thirsty. Back on Earth, none of this was on the news. People weren't watching galactic drama. They were busy. In Detroit, a group of engineers converted old Concorde cargo loaders into mobile classrooms. They drove them to neighborhoods where schools had been damaged in the last solar storm. Kids sat on repurposed hover pallets, learning math from tablets that once ran fleet navigation software. In Mumbai, street vendors sold food cooked on stoves powered by salvaged Concorde battery cores. The flames burned clean and blue. No smoke, no waste. A grandmother stirred a pot of lentils and told her granddaughter, "We used to send these parts to stars we'd never see. Now they feed us." That's better. Maya Ruiz's drone project went viral, not on galactic nets but on Earth's local mesh networks. Schools from Oslo to Jakarta copied her design. Soon, hundreds of small drones were planting trees, pollinating crops, even delivering medicine to remote villages. They didn't need Concorde approval. They didn't need alien oversight. They just worked. Lena Brooks watched a live feed from the Amazon reclamation zone. Her brother Jalen's face appeared in a small corner of the screen, still aboard Viridia Prime, still caught between 2 worlds. She didn't message him, not yet. She knew he had to find his own path. On Viridia Prime, things got worse. A Keithari science vessel tried to reboot a human-designed AI that managed waste recycling. They bypassed the safety protocols, thinking they understood the code. They didn't. The AI interpreted the override as a biohazard event and sealed off 3 entire decks. 50 beings were trapped inside. Air recyclers shut down. Water stopped flowing. Panic spread faster than the lockdown. Lyra Vaughn demanded emergency access. Zoran refused. "If we start making exceptions," he said, "we admit we can't run our own station." "But people are suffocating," Lyra replied. "Then let them learn to fix it themselves," Zoran said coldly. That night, someone cut the main power line to the sealed section, manually with a laser cutter. It was a human-style fix, messy, risky, but fast. The doors opened. Fresh air rushed in. No one claimed credit, but everyone knew only one species thought like that. The silence after the rescue was heavier than before. Jalen Brooks walked the corridors alone. He passed empty human offices, their desks bare, their screens dark. He remembered sitting in one of those rooms as a child, watching his sister Lena debug a translation algorithm while humming old Earth songs. He missed that hum. He found Zoran in the observation deck staring at the stars. "They're not coming back, are they?" Jalen said. It wasn't a question. Zoran didn't turn. "They will. When they realize how small they are without us." Jalen almost laughed. "You still don't get it. They don't feel small. They feel free." Zoran finally looked at him. "And what do you feel?" "Tired," Jalen said. "Tired of watching good people suffer because we were too proud to listen." Before Zoran could reply, an alarm blared through the station. Red lights flashed. A Priority 1 alert from Series 9. Jalen's blood ran cold. He knew that moon. He'd visited it with Lena once. She'd shown him how the reactor's cooling system worked, how it used a human-coded failsafe that only responded to Earth-issued biometric keys. Now the alert read, "Core instability. Meltdown in 6 hours." The station's main screen lit up with footage from Series 9. Smoke poured from vents. Workers ran in all directions. The reactor's temperature climbed past safe limits. If it blew, the radiation would poison 3 nearby systems, including a Keithari nursery colony. Zoran called an emergency session. Voices overlapped. Plans clashed. No one agreed on what to do. The Veln wanted to evacuate. The Mirkal wanted to flood the core with coolant, risking an explosion. The Trell suggested shutting it down remotely, but the system wouldn't accept non-human commands. Hours ticked by. Jalen stood quietly in the back. He watched them argue while a moon burned. Then he stepped forward. "I know someone who can help," he said. All eyes turned to him. "Lena Brooks," he said. "She designed that failsafe. She can shut it down safely." Zoran's voice was sharp. "She won't answer us." "Maybe not you," Jalen said. "But she might answer me." Silence. Lyra Vaughn spoke first. "Go, take the fastest shuttle. Bring her back." Zoran hesitated. Then slowly he nodded. Jalen didn't waste time. He ran to the hangar, grabbed a shuttle, and launched before anyone could change their mind. As Viridia Prime shrank behind him, he recorded a short message on his wrist pad. Just a few words. "Just enough. Lena, it's me. Series 9 is going critical. I know you're angry, I am too. But kids are going to die if we don't act. Please." He sent it through the old artist network, the one humans never shut down. He didn't expect a reply. But 3 minutes later, a single word came back. "Coming." He didn't know if she meant she'd talk, or if she'd come herself. Either way, for the first time in weeks, he felt hope. On Earth, Lena watched the message twice. Then she called Kyle. "They need us," she said. Kyle looked out his window at the sunset. "Do they need us? Or do they just need our tools?" "Maybe both," Lena said. "But if we don't help, innocent lives are lost. And that's not who we are." Kyle was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. "Tell them we're sending a team. No weapons. No demands. Just help." Lena sent the reply. Then she gathered her team, Marcus Cole, Nina Patel, and 5 young engineers, including Maya Ruiz. They packed light. Tools, not treaties. Skills, not speeches. As their shuttle lifted off from Cape Canaveral, Maya looked down at the planet she'd only ever known as home. She thought of the drones she'd built, the trees they'd planted, the quiet strength of her people. She wasn't scared. She was ready. Behind them, Earth spun on, calm and green. Ahead, a broken moon waited, and for the first time since they walked out, humans were going back, not as servants, not as juniors, but as healers. The galaxy had forgotten what that looked like. Soon it would remember. Part 4. The shuttle carrying Lena Brooks and her team dropped out of warp near Series 9 like a stone falling through still water. No fanfare, no warning, just a small white craft gliding silently toward a moon wrapped in smoke and fear. Jalen Brooks waited on the surface, standing alone in a cracked landing zone. His hands were empty. His uniform was clean. He didn't carry a weapon, not even a sidearm. He knew better. This wasn't about force. It was about trust. The ramp lowered. First came Marcus Cole, his face grim but calm. Then Nina Patel, her eyes scanning the horizon like she was already solving problems in her head. Behind them walked 5 young engineers, including Maya Ruiz, who clutched a small toolkit like it was a promise. Last came Lena. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just looked at her brother and said, "Is it as bad as the feed showed?" "Worse," Jalen said. They moved fast. No greetings, no speeches. The team split into pairs and followed Jalen through the trembling corridors of the mining facility. The air smelled of burnt metal and ozone. Alarms wailed in broken rhythms. Workers huddled in corners, their faces pale with exhaustion. Lena went straight to the reactor control room. The door was sealed. She placed her palm on the scanner. A green light blinked once. The door hissed open. Inside, the main console flashed red warnings in English. The system recognized her. It always would. She sat down, cracked her knuckles, and began typing. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, clean, precise, human. Marcus joined her, rerouting coolant lines through backup channels. Nina coordinated with local engineers, translating commands into simple steps anyone could follow. Maya and the others worked outside, patching damaged vents with sealant foam and jury-rigged drones. One of the young engineers, a boy named Eli, named after his uncle, used a handheld scanner to check radiation leaks. He found 3, marked them with bright paint. Called for help. No one had to tell him what to do. They worked like this for hours. No one shouted. No one blamed. They just fixed what was broken. Deep in the core, the temperature stopped rising. Then it began to fall. A collective breath escaped the control room. Lena leaned back. "It's stable." Jalen let out a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. You did it. We all did, she said, but she knew it wasn't over. Back on Viridia Prime, Zoran watched the live feed from Series 9 with Lyra Vaughn at his side. He saw humans working alongside Marikal, Trell, and Cathari engineers. No orders, no hierarchy, just hands reaching for the same wrench, voices calling out readings in broken but shared language. They didn't ask for anything, Lyra said softly. Not even thanks. Zoran didn't answer. He just stared at Lena's face on the screen. Tired, focused, kind. He remembered dismissing her once as emotional during a budget meeting. Now she had saved a moon with nothing but skill and silence. He felt small. Not weak, just small. When the reactor was fully secure, Lena called a meeting in the facility's mess hall. Everyone came, miners, engineers, medics, even the station's cook. She stood on a crate not because she wanted attention, but so everyone could see her. We're not here to stay, she said. We're here to teach. If you want to run these systems yourselves, we'll show you how. No secrets, no locks, just knowledge. A trail worker raised a hand. Why help us after what the council did? Lena looked at him. Because hurting you doesn't heal us. And we're done with hurt. Murmurs spread through the room. Not of doubt, but of relief. Over the next 2 days, the human team trained anyone who asked. They rewrote access codes to accept non-human biometrics. They printed paper manuals in 7 languages. Maya showed a group of kids how to build simple drones from scrap parts. You don't need fancy tech, she said. You just need to care. Jalen watched his sister from the doorway. He saw how people leaned in when she spoke. Not because she demanded it, but because she earned it. On the 3rd morning, Lena found him alone near the shuttle. You coming back with us? She asked. He shook his head. Not yet. There's still work here. And on Viridia Prime, someone has to bridge the gap. She nodded. Just don't lose yourself in the middle. I won't, he said. But I need to ask you something. He pulled a small data chip from his pocket. This is a message from me to the council, but I want you to deliver it. They'll listen to you now. Lena took the chip. What's on it? A request, he said. For a new kind of Concord. One where every voice matters, not just the oldest. She tucked the chip into her jacket. We'll see. Before she left, she handed him something else, a small drone no bigger than his palm. It plants seeds, she said. Start with one. See what grows, he smiled. I will. The shuttle lifted off as the sun rose over Series 9. Below, workers waved. Some cried. Most just stood in silence, watching the white craft disappear into the stars. Back on Earth, the team was greeted not with parades, but with open arms. News of their mission spread quietly. No headlines, no hype. Just pride, soft and steady. Kyle Dawson met Lena at the landing pad. They'll ask you to come back, he said. Maybe, she replied. But only if they change. They already are, he said. And he was right. On Viridia Prime, Zoran called a special session. He didn't sit in his usual place. He stood in the center of the chamber, the same spot where Kyle had stood weeks before. I was wrong, he said. His voice trembled, but he didn't hide it. We treated humans as tools because we were afraid of what they could become. But they didn't become rulers. They became teachers. He held up the data chip Jalen had sent. This is not a plea. It's a chance. To build something better. Lyra Vaughn stood. I support this. One by one, the other delegates rose. Even the Mirkal, even the Trell, no one argued. No one hesitated. They voted then and there to draft a new charter. One that gave every species equal say, equal access, equal respect. And they sent a message to Earth. Not through official channels. Not through cold protocol. Through Jalen's old artist network. It read, We are listening. Lena read it that night on her porch, under a sky full of stars. She didn't reply right away. She just sat there watching fireflies blink in the grass. Tiny lights choosing when to shine. She knew the Concord wasn't fixed. Not yet, but for the first time it was trying. And that was enough. Part 5. 6 months after humans walked out, they returned to Viridia Prime. Not as petitioners, not as subordinates, but as guests. The station looked the same on the outside. The same obsidian rings, the same humming corridors, the same view of the stars through the grand chamber's dome. But inside, everything had changed. The human shuttle docked without fanfare. No guards met them. No protocols demanded their weapons be checked, because they carried none. Kyle Dawson stepped out first, wearing simple clothes, no uniform, no insignia. Behind him came Lena Brooks, Marcus Cole, Nina Patel, and a few others, including Maya Ruiz, who clutched her small drone like an old friend. Jalen Brooks waited at the airlock. He wore no Concord robes, just a plain shirt Earth-made sent by his sister. He didn't salute. He just hugged her. "You came," he said. "We did," she replied. They walked together through the station. Workers from every species paused to watch, not with suspicion but with something new. Respect. A Cathari child pointed and whispered to her mother. A Mircall engineer nodded as Marcus passed. Even the Veln attendants bowed slightly, their iridescent skin shimmering with something that looked like hope. The grand chamber had been cleaned. The floating symbol of unity still spun in the center, but now, carved into the floor beneath it, were 17 new words, one from each species, meaning together. The human word was accord. High Arbiter Zoran stood near the entrance. He did not wear his ceremonial robes. Instead, he wore a simple gray tunic, human style. When Kyle approached, Zoran did something no Veln had ever done in public. He bowed his head. "I was wrong," he said again, quieter this time. "Not just about you. About what strength really is." Kyle didn't gloat. He just nodded. "We're all learning." The session that followed was unlike any before. There were no raised voices, no hidden agendas. The new charter, drafted by delegates from all 17 species with heavy input from human legal scholars, was read aloud in every language. It granted equal voting rights. It required shared maintenance of all critical systems. It banned the use of species-based hierarchies and command structures. And then, without being asked, the council voted to rename the Grand Chamber the Hall of Human Accord, Lyra Vaughn announced. No one objected, not even Zoran. After the vote, Kyle was invited to speak. He walked to the center just as he had on the day he left. But this time the silence wasn't heavy. It was expectant. He didn't give a speech. He told a story. He spoke of a boy in Nairobi who used a broken Concord scanner to find clean water for his village. He spoke of a grandmother in Buenos Aires who taught her neighbors how to grow food using old fleet rations. He spoke of Maya's drones planting trees where fires had burned. "We didn't leave to punish you," he said. "We left because we believed you could be better. And you are." He stepped back. The chamber stayed quiet for a long moment. Then slowly Lyra Vaughn began to clap. Others joined. Not the thunderous applause of victory, but the soft, steady rhythm of understanding. Later that day, the human team stayed to help. Not to take over, but to teach. Marcus showed Veln engineers how to maintain relay stations without human biometrics. Nina worked with Trell diplomats to rebuild the translation matrix using open-source code. Maya set up a workshop for kids, showing them how to build simple repair bots from scrap. Jalen watched them all, pride swelling in his chest. He saw his sister laughing with a Mircall apprentice over a miswired circuit. He saw Kyle sharing a meal with Zoran, two old enemies eating stew from the same pot. That night, Lena stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Jalen joined her. "Do you think it'll last?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. She thought of the drone in her pocket, the one she'd given him months ago. She'd heard it had planted its first tree near the Series 9 landing zone. A sapling, barely knee-high but alive. "Nothing lasts forever," she said. "But things can grow if you tend to them." He smiled. "Then we'll tend." Back on Earth, life continued. Cities thrived. Farms bloomed. Children learned not just how to use technology, but how to share it. News feeds showed a new kind of story. Not of war or crisis, but of cooperation. A Cathari artist painted a mural in Chicago. A Trell musician played in a Tokyo park. A Veln poet read verses in New York, translated by a human teenager who'd never left her state. The galaxy was healing. Slowly. Quietly. And humans were part of it again. Not because they needed the Concord, but because they chose to be. Weeks later, the first joint mission launched. A human pilot and a Mircall navigator flew a ship to map a new nebula. Their vessel bore no flags, only a single symbol on its hull. 17 rings, now interwoven with a green leaf. No one called it a human symbol. No one called it alien. It was just theirs. On Viridia Prime, the Hall of Human Accord stood open to all. Its doors never locked. Its lights never dimmed. And in the center, Where the old symbol once floated alone, a new one spun gently, a spiral of rings wrapped around a single, growing tree. Kyle visited Earth one last time before returning to the station for good. He stood in his daughter's garden, watching her water plants with a hose made from recycled Concord tubing. "Are you staying this time?" she asked. He knelt beside her. "I'm staying as long as they keep listening." She nodded, satisfied. "Good, we missed you." He hugged her tight, breathing in the smell of soil and sun. Then he looked up at the sky, where stars blinked like old friends saying hello. The humans had walked out once, and the council had faltered quickly. But now they walked back in together, and this time no one would be left behind.